Good evening and welcome to the Neighborhood Advisory Committee meeting. It's from 6 to 7:30 and we're in person at the first floor North Conference Room, City Hall. You can stream live on the city's YouTube channel at www.youtube.com, City of Asheville, or you can make public comments via voicemail 855-925-2801, meeting code 9247. At this time, I'll ask all of the other members if they will introduce themselves, and we'll start down here with Jack.
Good afternoon, Jake Smith, 28801 at large.
I'm Elizabeth Likas. I'm an at-large member and reside in 28803.
Hi, I'm Elise Martyr. I reside in 28806. I'm also an at-large representative.
Hi, I'm Sharon Summerall. I'm your vice chair, and I represent 28805.
Michael Fulbright, 28801.
I'm Peter Amsug, and I'm at large at 28805.
Moira Belange, and I represent 28806.
And I am Bobette Mays, the chair, and I represent 2803 and 28704. We have not called this meeting to order. I want you to look at, has everyone had the opportunity to look over the approval of the draft minutes from April the 24th? If not, take a minute or two if you looked over them. And let's look at the agenda, review the agenda for today's meeting. If there's anything that you see that may need to be changed. Excuse me. So I would like to ask at this time if I can get a motion just for both of those and a second.
I'll motion to approve the draft minutes and the agenda for today's meeting.
I second that motion.
Motion was made by Elise, and a second by Elizabeth. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Do we have any public comments or voicemails?
There were no pre-meeting comments or voicemails, and no one has signed up for a public comment.
Okay, we'll continue on with the staff activities and updates.
Sounds good. And Dow was not available tonight. She had a conflict, so Meredith's going to provide you all with an update on the neighborhood matching grants.
Hi everyone, I'm Meredith Friedheim, Neighborhood Services Specialist. Happy to give you guys an update on round 3 of the Neighborhood Matching Grant Program. So far we have 7 good-looking applications that have been submitted. I've been providing technical assistance to neighborhoods along the way, and I know that there are a couple additional applications that we know of that are coming in. And the deadline is this coming Saturday, May 27th. According to Christina, it might not be surprising if we get a few extras that come in right at the end of that deadline right there. And Christina and I are working to answer any questions and sort of vet the applications as we get them in, so that we've got a lot of the legwork out of the way, and the scoring team is scheduled to meet the week of June 5th to go over all of the applications and hopefully come out of that meeting with our awardees selected. And then we'll be announcing the awardees by June 30th. So that's the gist of the update. And also Christina just put on the neighborhood matching grant section of our website a new dashboard for the grants, and this is a really cool tool for the public to use to see all of the neighborhood matching grants that have been awarded thus far, with all of the information sort of attached there. So I encourage y'all to check that out. That's all I have.
Do we have anything about the downtown safety initiative that's on the agenda?
So not so much, probably not as thorough an update as Dowa would give. I will say that the page that is on public input, which you can access by going to the city's website, clicking on Engage, takes you to the virtual engagement hub. And the Downtown Safety Initiative is one of the first projects that you'll see. And so when you go to that project, we've started adding the project by the numbers information, which is, there's a lot of interesting stuff there, like, how many graffiti tags have been cleaned, and how many miles of street sweeping, and our community responder program through the fire department has their own dashboard of their activities. So there's a lot of numbers on that page if folks want to go and check that out. It's being updated bi-weekly. So throughout this 60-day Downtown Safety Initiative, we're going to keep folks updated via that page, and there's an opportunity for people to subscribe for those updates. So rather than having to remember to go back and check, you can receive an email in your inbox reminding you, hey, we've updated the dashboard with the latest information. So that's what I wanted to share with you all about that.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. We'll go on into our new business, update from the Human Relations Commission. We welcome the chair, Tanya Rodriguez, for you to come on up and now give us. We'll ask that you hold all questions or comments until after she's finished with her presentation.
Hello.
Hi.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your service and this opportunity to share what we're doing with the Human Relations Commission. I just recently wrapped my term as chair on Thursday, so it is an honor to be presenting this information to you all. And once again, thank you for your service. Being on a commission is quite a challenge, and so I commend all of you. The Human Relations Commission of Asheville is a collection of people who have joined together in elevating awareness around public safety, education, equity and inclusion, supporting the Office of Equity and Inclusion in the city of Asheville, and also being representative and an ear between the community and the city. We achieve that by promoting and improving human relations and achieving equity among all citizens in the city by carrying out the city's human relations program. We prioritize racial equity work with city government and partner with communities and outside agencies in an effort to encourage and ensure diversity, fairness, equity, and inclusion throughout the city. So we're removing barriers and opening up opportunities for diversity, removing barriers with equity and opening up opportunities for diversity. For example, we just recently recommended to City Council the Asheville Crown Act to remove any barriers of natural hair within any level in the city, which also supports the non-discrimination ordinance. The Asheville Crown Act allows for people with natural hair who have like dreadlocks and stuff, like locks and braids and things like that, to not be discriminated against on any level for their hair, which is a long, often steeped in unspoken discrimination that people with natural hair have experienced in this country and in Asheville. So we identify and assist in addressing all forms of individual, institutional, and community discrimination through education, advocacy, and policy recommendations. So we can work together as commissions to find out what you see in your neighborhoods as potential for advocacy within discrimination, or any barriers within policy, barriers to equity within the policies that you encounter surrounding your neighborhoods, to bring to us and collaborate on how we can build policy or recommendations, policy recommendations to City Council. So we make policy recommendations to City Council which promote and improve human relations and advance equity in the city, support Office of Equity and Inclusion, provide a forum where residents can raise issues and complaints relating to human relations in the city. We engage the community regarding the utilization of city-funded programs and policies for the promotion of human relations, and promote and improve human relations and advance equity in the following areas: public safety, education, art, cultural opportunities, economic development, health and human services, and housing. So economic development, housing, cultural opportunities, and education and public safety, we can all join together with commissions across the board and the issues that come up and arise. We have developed working groups within our commission that address specific issues: intergovernment relations, community engagement, addressing housing issues, examining systems, and of course, improving HRCA. If you would like a copy of this, let Brenda know, and Brenda would be glad to email out a copy to Christina, and so that everybody here can receive a copy of our working groups. And if you want to participate in any of those working groups on the capacity as a commissioner or community member, you're more than welcome. So our accomplishments. We did remove inactive members. We do have, because because the Human Relations Commission, the issues that we deal with are really, really heavy. And not everybody can sit on that commission. It's a lot of stuff. And so we did remove inactive members. We removed restrictions on membership from ordinance. And so in the initiation, or when we began the commission, we had numbers, a certain amount of numbers, demographic, and were to be on the commission. So there was, I believe, like 7 African American, like 7 African American, 2 LGBTQ. So here in North Carolina, quotas are illegal. And so we didn't really recognize that, and then we recognized that, and we did everything to rectify it. Well, keeping in mind that we wanted to make sure that the commission allows for a diverse commission. I'll get to your question in a moment. Allows for a diverse commission within reflection to the issues that arise here in Asheville that are often specific to demographics that are affected by the things that we address in our mission. Recommended adding source of income to City of Asheville on the non-discrimination ordinance. We moved to in-person meetings. We reduced our membership from 15 to 9 to balance the heavy lift of our commission. So 15 people was a lot of people, and so we would always kind of search for quorum. So when we reduced it to 9, it really helped a lot, and now we're making quorum just about every meeting. This is our vice chair, Brandon Oliver. We moved to 6 meetings a year, and we hold them every other month, and we began that this January. And also, once again, introduced discussion to recommend a unique ordinance to protect natural hair. For 2023, in our next retreat, we'll definitely be updating the HRCA work plan and build relationships with community to increase visibility. This is a brand new commission. So we've only been around since 2018, 2019? 19? 18, yeah, we've only been around since 2018, so we're still bringing that visibility out to Asheville and the greater collective. Also, to create and foster education opportunities with HRCA for community awareness of city departments and programs, and more policy recommendations to City Council to reduce barriers to equity for all peoples of Asheville. Collaborate across current boards and commissions on recommendations and/or initiatives put forth by Asheville boards and commissions. One of the things that I was attempting to do as chair is to unite the chairs and the boards and commissions. And that was almost like chasing butterflies. So I do hope that in the future that is something that can be achieved. I would like to see a retreat amongst the commission boards of chairs and vice chairs to collaborate across the boards to create that open conversation of collaboration, and to foster a strong sense of community in the Asheville Human Relations Commission to model human relations to Asheville and the city of Asheville. That is our presentation. Thank you very much for this opportunity to provide you with this presentation and share a little bit about the Human Relations Commission. Are there any questions? I love it. Oh, Commissioner Summerall.
Gosh, I have a lot, but I think the handout that I couldn't read from here would probably answer my questions. So as a neighborhood, I'm involved in 28805. As a person, I work with my community is in 28801, and we have different issues that go on in both those neighborhoods that I get involved in. So in 28805, we had our low barrier housing issue that was going along Tunnel Road, and we got directly involved in that. We formed groups, and we went to council, and we got deeply involved in that. Did HRC attempt to deal with, on your level of a board and commission, on that low barrier issues that were real impacting the neighborhoods, like Haw Creek, 28805, which is Haw Creek also, and Oakley, who were quite vocal about that and got very involved. Does HRC, did you make a focus on that particular issue or not?
We were, as far as I know, we were not invited into that conversation. So this is what I'm talking about, collaboration. So you're working on this initiative, right? And so you say, hey, I want to come to the Human Relations Commission, have representation from the Human Relations Commission. Let's collaborate together and write policy to recommend, or write a recommendation to City Council to address the issues that are coming up, which strengthens our boards and commissions. So if we're working in a space of individualism, right? Assuming that boards and commissions are aware of the things that we're working on without reaching out, then it's difficult to work together.
Right, but it was so publicized. I mean, it was hugely publicized. It was in the ACT every day, and there was just a lot of information on it. So what I see you saying is that when all these neighborhoods were organizing, we met with city, that someone could have raised their hand and said, shall we involve the HRC in this and see if they'll have an opinion on this, because sometimes it'll take, having me been on board and commission, takes a little longer. When you get an upset community, they will coalesce right away, and they're pounding council immediately.
Yes.
So, but then there's also that long term, which brings me to the issues of 28801, where we've got development coming in with the guise of zoning changes and missing middle housing, which is the new buzzword now for denser building, which works in some areas and doesn't work in other areas, like everything. There's no one size fits all. And so 28801 is very much interested because we have a lot of land, we have reparation land that was taken that we're protecting as much as we can, but we're a builder's paradise right now. So everybody comes to us and brings us what I call their dog and pony show and wants to sell us their new idea. And so if we want to find a happy medium with the community, us as a neighborhood, and equity, then I could stand up at a meeting and go, maybe we should talk to HRC about where they can help us in presentation and be behind us or with us or work with us in our discussions with council. Is that how HRC works?
I appreciate that. I mean, because that is a challenge that we have experienced. I've personally experienced as chair. Figuring out a way to include commissions on our initiatives. I've reached out to commissions on initiatives and received no response. And so.
Yeah, I'm talking about the
And-
my Eastern Valley per se, which is
Yeah.
not a commission, it's our Eastern Valley neighborhood, which is very strong. I'm on a
Right.
commission that will tell them what's going on, but as a
Right.
neighborhood,
Right.
they're wanting some help. So as a neighborhood, could I raise my hand and go, hey,
Mhm.
let's go to HRC and see if they're interested in presenting our issues that we've got going on with this particular item?
Right. So as sitting on the Neighborhood Advisory Committee, you would come to the HRCA as a representative of the Neighborhood Advisory Committee, as a representative of that neighborhood, and collectively say, hey, we have this initiative going on, this issue going on, get everybody on your commission aware of what you're doing, and then bring it to us so that we can join forces to write a recommendation to city council.
So what if I'm not on the commission? I'm due to get off this commission in a month, and I'm just a person now that sits at Eastern Valley, and I don't have a commission behind me. Can we come as a neighborhood to you
So,
without a commission behind us?
right, so then it would go like this. You would come to us, then we would come to the Neighborhood Advisory Committee and find out what you all thought about it to collaborate on what's the next best thing to do. So that's what I'm saying about collaboration across committees, commissions, and boards and committees. So it's important that we work together in that way so that we can have that strength in numbers.
So we would go to NAC first, and then NAC voted on it, would come to HRCA.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and then we would all talk about it, and then we'd say, hey, we received this recommendation from Neighborhood Advisory Committee, let's have a look at it, let's endorse it or not, and we'll make a vote on it, or write a recommendation to support that, and then that would go to City Council.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Are there any further questions? And thank you for your advocacy. That's really important. That's 2 neighborhoods is a big deal. That's a lot. That's a lot of zip code.
That's why I've got 1 more month.
Are there any further questions? You all are also welcome to join in on applying for the Human Relations Commission as well, to cross-pollinate, if that's something that's of interest to you as well, and those watching the video. So, thank you.
I actually do have one question and one comment. The comment is, thank you so much for bringing this to us. I was not really aware of what all had been transpiring, but was aware that it existed, but this really helps round out my picture of what you've been working on. And my question is, I think you said you were getting out of your role as chair, or no?
I have served my terms.
Okay.
So I started off as a commissioner in 20, and so now I've wrapped my term as chair, so.
I was just wondering
Mhm.
who is there not another contact?
There's a new chair
Okay.
now, Chair Alma Atkins, and
Okay.
Vice Chair Daniel Young. The main contact for the Human Relations Commission.
Is Elena Schmidt. If you look on the website where your information is, it's called the Human Relations Commission.
I was just curious when you said you were on your way out.
Yes, and if, you're more than welcome to contact me as well for anything, so I'm always open and available. I've got some good things that we're doing and I'd probably be interested in, so besides that, thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you all for your service. Really appreciate all of you, and I'm glad to see everybody doing good things, and I will step away from the microphone.
Thank you so much, Tanya. We appreciate you coming in today. It's good information, and you'll make sure you get that to us, Christina, right? Yes. Okay. No problem. Now, let's go on to the unfinished business. The working group, do you have any comments before? I would just kind of like for us to look over the bylaws. I understand that the city attorney has already said that, given us a go for it. So if you want to kind of look over, I'll give you a few minutes just to look over it and read over it to see what you have, the great work that the working group has done. And I've read over it, but maybe everyone else hasn't completely read over it, and then we'll take a vote on it. So I'll give you a couple of minutes.
Elise noted that this is the XX day, XXX.
The date was there as a placeholder. It needs to be replaced with an actual date on the last page.
Once it's adopted, once it's adopted.
So after we were voted on it, it's already adopted, that'll be placed on it.
Looks just like we talked about, from what I remember.
All right, I'll ask for a motion to accept these bylaws, and then a second. Let's give them a motion.
No, I'll make a motion that we accept the bylaws as Elise worked so hard on, and approved by our city attorney.
Seconded.
We'll get it to you. Any questions? So we do understand that on the back of here, the date after it's adopted, that will be filled in, so we are clear on that one? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And it has been done. Updates from the Festival of Neighborhoods Working Group.
Yes, we met 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, virtually. There were a few of us that were sort of circling back around to the date and the location, and we have completed an application. Christina completed that application. You have a copy of this application in front of us. We want to make sure that if there's any questions or discussion about anything on here, give you a minute to look at that. We have set it for September 30th at Martin Luther King Park. It's a Saturday from 10 to 4. And it has basically outlined the number of tents we're going to have, hopefully, that will be filled by very excited neighborhood associations and other groups. A couple of inflatables, and there is a map on the back, sort of a map of a couple of bouncy houses and the way the tables would be laid out. The little trucks are the food trucks. just to give you an idea of how this might be set up with a lot of open space in the middle.
Have we considered inviting the HRCA?
I think we should. I think it'll go out to everyone, right? All the city groups and commissions. We do have, we've taken care of applying for all the access, water, electricity, those types of things. The food, we thought it was important in our meeting that we have some food that's just available, some complimentary food, as well as some food truck sales that are there. What else? Anything else on here that people have questions about? And I've got more information about the working group.
I just want to make a note, knowing this part as well as I do, that some of these triangles that we have are going to have to be food truck for the ones that need electricity. So we still have to firm up who our food trucks are going to be and what they need, because electricity is located on a pole over here, 2 poles at MLK, and 1 pole over where there's a umbrella. So we'll kind of have to dodge around for the people that need it. And a site visit, once we know who our food trucks are. And then the food trucks have to have inboard
Generators.
Generators,
Onboard
thank you.
generators, yeah.
And part of that is when, in a minute, when I talk about the ideal teams we're going to have, where we have people that want to be a part of this, and I'll put in my plug in just a minute, for the different areas, activities, food, in-kind donations, sponsorships, things like that, and the logistics, some of the electric and things that we've talked about in our meeting. But I'm sure this is just a rough sketch, and then as we do find out more details between now and September, this map may change.
Yeah, and I'm off the board, and I said I would volunteer. I will be gone that week that this is happening, and I will still volunteer and help set up. But we're gonna need more people on our.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to that part. I was just
Oh,
looking
sorry,
at
I
the.
don't mean to
That's
rush
okay.
you
I'm
on
just,
that.
I'm just looking right now at the application because in the email that Christina sent, Christina, I believe you said if there are any questions and people have this in front of them.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean
No,
to
that's okay.
push ahead.
Yeah, basically, if you see anything that needs to be changed, you don't have to necessarily come up with it right now. I know you need time to review it, but sometime over the course of the next week, if I could hear that from you, because we would have to submit an amendment to our application since it has been submitted. But yeah, or any questions that I could answer since I filled this out with my colleague.
The codes on the public works, you've got 5 days. I'm assuming that's just for the city to pick up and gather. That doesn't involve us.
Exactly, yeah, it just, Public Works,
That's giving
sanitation,
them enough time.
they don't work on Fridays, so they need to drop it off on Thursday and pick it up on Monday.
Okay, that's what I thought when I saw the amount of days.
One of these tents will be where speakers go, where we'll have a microphone and the amplification and those types of things for Bobette and any other city people that want to welcome everyone to the Festival of Neighborhoods and what the Neighborhood Advisory Council and all the groups that are collaborating are doing. And so we'll have an opportunity. I don't know if that will be the staging area where we're going to have music. Music is definitely part of this. I'll talk in just a minute about the other parts, but more details to be determined.
I have another question on inflatables. Do we need to provide someone for that? Or does a person come with the inflatables to monitor it?
Do we need to provide supervision? Was that your question? I'll have to ask.
Usually it's the city, Parks and Rec.
Usually yeah, you're right,
That's
Bobette.
when I've had it, when we've had it at, we've had them at Shiloh. I think it was Parks and Rec that
Okay.
came with their team.
Good, so we don't have to come up with someone to do that. No, okay.
So the majority of our meeting was discussing the areas where we will need a lot more help. And because Wendy and Sharon, I think, are both rolling off this summer, before this event, and Jake and I and Bobette not only help in this working group, but also to disseminate the information, spread it out to all the neighborhoods. I am going to be drafting a letter to the neighborhoods that are on our neighborhood on a page to give them some details, ask them to disseminate that at their neighborhood association meetings, and get any volunteers to be funneled to us. And then anybody on NAC, as that starts to develop, anyone on NAC that wants to jump in one of the team areas, we talked about having, you know, say maybe up to 4 teams, one that was dealing with the food issues, you know, which food vendors and which, what kinds of food would we have that's complimentary versus the stuff for sale. What activities besides the bouncy houses, the musicians, all of those types of ideas. There have been so many, dozens and dozens of ideas discussed, but it really would work a whole lot better if we had teams working on those. So the logistics, which is the physical setup, and the electricity, which Sharon has said she would help with. And then any kind of printing, flyers, posters. We don't really have a budget for this, but any kind of in-kind donations from places like Greenworks or other, you know, things like that. So ideally, we're going to have these 4 teams after we send the letter out to the neighborhoods and say, where would you like to plug in? And have a point person for each of those teams so that our work group can be the liaisons with them, and they can also have efficient meetings. So if you have specific ideas and want to talk to your neighborhood associations, please feel free to gather any information. I'm happy to be a point person for the larger volunteer list, and then sort of figure out which area they want to be a part of. And what else? Am I missing anything? There's so many ideas we talked about. I could talk about it for another 15 minutes, but I will not.
You can?
Well, we talked about things like, you know, Bobette, you were mentioning like Mr. Davis's hot dog stand, like having a hot dog stand there. Having lots of, and just ideas that you could take back to your neighborhood or your neighborhood associations and say, what would we like to do? Would we like to bring stuff from our community garden? Would we like to have an art project? Would we like to, you know, something that is engaging, it's going to be fun, we want it to be, we're going to have, hopefully collaborate with the fire and the police and the safety, the guy that came, was it Jeremy?
Yeah, you're right.
Yes, that came and talked about the preparedness, having a booth on that. We could have a booth, I'm hoping that the Multimodal Transportation Commission could come and have a booth and ask people, you know, what is something you're concerned about that you'd like to make more walkable or pedestrian friendly in your neighborhood? You know, just ideas like that. So anything is welcome at this point, just getting people to create their own things so that we get those 30 tents filled up with cool stuff.
Do we have a short list of people who are going to be populating those tents yet?
No, we haven't even put that out to the neighborhoods yet.
I don't think my mic is working, but I do have a question. I'll use your mic. In terms of business involvement, like what kind of businesses are you looking for and what type of involvement? Is it like they get a booth, but they have to pay for that, or they donate and they don't get a booth, or?
We don't charge for booths. I mean, anybody that wants to sign up can, and we hadn't actually talked about specific businesses except ones that, I mean, Asheville Greenworks came up, that was one that I mentioned.
Right.
But I imagine that if you know of somebody that is interested in having one, just have them contact us and we'll talk about it at the work group.
Okay, well, I just didn't know in terms of, you know, because businesses get involved for different reasons. So if there was like a
Right.
specific, like, focus or what you would want them to do, because I mean, if people are going to jump on that just to promote their business, and I don't know that we want that to be that
Yeah,
kind of event, right?
Imagine-
So,
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we probably need to talk about some criteria in our work group
Yeah.
for what kinds of things we want. I would imagine we would give first dibs to some of the neighborhood associations. And
Right.
then if there's some left and people said, here's what we can offer that is neighborhood related and not just a promo for their business.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great question.
or like a business that's representative of like a certain neighborhood, for
Mhm.
instance.
You know, I keep thinking we need something like flyers to promote what we're doing, and then a flyer that advertises when we're doing, where it's going on. We need two ways of advertising to get people aware, so that when I go to my neighborhood meeting, I can get maybe a minute and a half attention of everybody, but then I can hand out flyers to everybody. And I know that we have no money for flyers, but the city has got the availability of their print shop. So maybe we can print off X amount of, this is what we're looking for, can you contribute in your neighborhood? And then I can go to my 28801 and 28805, hand that out, and are you willing to participate or can you? And then have a flyer that shows that, hey, attend, we're gonna have September 30, you know, the Fiesta Extraordinaire at MLK.
Yeah, and this thing is so massive in all the things we've talked about. It feels like we're just at the beginning of some of the details, but these are really good things that we could put on the agenda for the next work group meeting. And I imagine that anybody that has a strength in flyers, printing, graphics, anything like that, that wants to be a part of that effort, I would welcome that.
Oh, I was going to say, in terms of marketing, so obviously, like we just discussed, it'd be marketing to people who actually want to participate in it, and then marketing the event as a thing that people attend, right? So it's like two different, it's more like internal marketing and then external marketing.
We need your help, to
Right,
do
the
this,
first stage is.
The internal, right? And then, because it'd be hard to do the public-facing marketing if we don't even have the details pinned down right yet, right? So, marketing is kind of what I do, so
Okay.
in my day
Because
job.
we really have 2.5 months,
Kind
if
of.
we're really looking at this, into September.
Yeah.
We're gonna spend 2 weeks setting up, so we're pretty well done. If we're not done by the middle of September, then we're not.
Right, right. So
So, yeah, we should have
in terms of
3 to
marketing.
4 months to get this.
June.
Are you saying you would like to?
Yes,
help with
I
marketing?
would definitely, and
Great, and then if we can get the city's printing center to print out flyers and then bring them to the NAC meeting.
We'll print flyers.
I know.
I know, you don't have to say pretty please. I've gone down into details now, just because with the bigger picture.
well, that was my
next
other
steps.
question too, is obviously with the marketing, I think physical flyers are great. Do we have a plan for online marketing at all?
Not in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
I do want to say this, that when you're talking about Festival of Neighborhoods, your first draw is going to be the neighborhoods.
Right.
So the people in the neighborhoods. The majority of the people in our neighborhoods don't know anything online. So it would have to be flyers.
No, I mean, it would be a coordinated effort, but that way we reach the people that,
It would be multi-pronged.
multi-channel. So there's people that react better to flyers, but then ones that, because some neighborhoods have more active Facebook groups, let's say, than others, for instance.
Right, like, I know you can send it to Ken and they can put it on their website, and Kenilworth Forest they're all online,
Yeah.
and they have regular.
WeCan has a very active Facebook group and
Yeah.
they'll put
Yeah,
anything.
right.
And I think that may be something when I send out to the letter to the 39 neighborhoods or the email to those chairs is to say, do you have a Facebook page? Do you have another type of way that you communicate about things? And then we will also do flyers and do all of those things.
So I think that, that it's gonna be something that, it's gonna be, that we market, yes. And I think that when we find out how many, neighborhoods are gonna be present, that's the first thing. But like with Sharon and I, we go to the association, I don't know, how many people go to your neighborhood association meetings? Okay, so that means getting commitment for people. Once you talk to them, if they're gonna set up, if we ask them to set up a booth, they're gonna bring people in from the neighborhood to help with that. So I think the first step is the letter that you're talking about. And then we can do, the city has a website and they're gonna have, they'll put, it'll be all over everywhere. And then and then, what other marketing? So I don't know about, it's like a fun day. So I don't know about a lot of, it's kind of iffy because you don't know who's gonna turn up, you know? Because it's neighborhoods and you want it to be fun. And it's like when East End Valley has if you've never been, you've missed a treat. Because when they've had theirs, it's like fun all day, isn't it? All day long, fun, food, kids have fun,
Music all day.
music all day. Sharon stretched out on the field, you know, I had to say that. But I like that. So that's something, you're gonna get on there. You got her on your work group now?
Yes.
All right, then. Good.
So we're gonna, in our next work group, we'll start to shape up the criteria, the teams, who's doing what. Maybe we'll hopefully start getting some information back from those neighborhood, the chairs of those neighborhood associations. And I do realize that there's also some places in Asheville that aren't part of a neighborhood association. And so, you know, we'll have to figure out how to get word out to them. I mean, word of mouth is one thing, but we'll bring that back as we get to the next step. And then we'll have to, you know, are we gonna have an application? Are we gonna set it up on the neighborhood page and disseminate that and say, okay, now, anyone that wants to have a booth, apply, so that we don't want everyone, you know, providing water balloons, you know, so have a little bit of diversity in, like, you know, neighborhoods that we don't know what to do. Well, I know that we've already got these 10 things. What about this?
So if you would ask the neighborhoods to bring to that event what their neighborhood stands for or literature about their neighborhoods. I know that,
like a neighborhood fact sheet or a history or something.
well, they would
cool
have,
about their neighborhood.
at their table, they would have information, like, Southside, they have a fabulous garden, and they do a farmer's market. Burton Street has agricultural things with them. Shiloh, we have, they have mugs and T-shirts and flags and stuff. So if every neighborhood we could get them to represent, and people could stop by and you could tell them a little bit about that neighborhood. It might be somebody that's not involved that would get involved.
Yeah, we have a dental clinic.
Yeah. And we have the health department that's coming in now. They're giving shingle shots, pneumonia shots.
Burton Street has a podiatrist, I think.
So we, you know, as long as we can start to bring that, and then we could do some health projects with like a BIPA and Advent Health. I remember we talked about Appalachia. They're doing something. I know Dr. Platt is in charge of that, and they do great work. And they come out and they have, you know, have presentation. They did blood pressures and a lot of stuff like that. So that's, you know, so as you all are pulling all that together and thinking about that, that would be something good to think on.
Yeah, and we've generated probably 40, 50 ideas, so when we get, I think part of that will be,
Hold it down.
what would your neighborhood or neighborhood association like to bring, or like to showcase, or, you know, everything from, bring some bubbles
I
for
wish
the
we could
kids.
find a man that does that makes the honey.
Oh, the woman in the red Yugo on the side of the road?
Yeah.
Oh, I see him everywhere. I
Me
can stop by and
too.
ask him. I bought
See,
from
that
him.
would be something that's something
Yeah, he's
different.
over on Swananoa River Road. all
He's
the time.
everywhere.
There is one question I have about some of the food, and it was in relation to an email, Christina, that you sent. It was something having to do with, I wish I had it in front of me. Do people providing food have to have some sort of, meet some sort of standard? Like there's some health,
They have to have a grade.
that I know nothing about. So can
So-
you speak to that a little bit?
My understanding is that if they are vending food, if they're selling food for money, then yes, they have to meet the health department codes. So inspectable kitchen and have maybe a license and that sort of thing. So like your food trucks are definitely going to meet that criteria. Whereas, you know, the young person that somebody mentioned, maybe they would want to come with their lemonade stand. That's where the food by donation might be a better option rather than having to jump through a bunch of hoops about.
That's what I wanted to clarify, is that if people want to bring things, their neighborhood can make sandwiches or make bring chips or bring lemonade or something like that. That could be part of their contribution at their booth, but
But we
the
have to
ones
be
that are.
careful too, because we'll be outside and it'll be hot, and I don't know if.
Well, that's why I asked, like, what is
But every
the
food
health
truck-
standard for
Yeah,
the food and
Christine,
drink?
if you will find out, if I'm not mistaken, that every food truck, they would have to submit an application.
Yes.
So that would be what we would have to get. So that's some information you need soon, of a commitment for them to want to be there on that date, so they can get that application in, because that's what they have to do. Anything that's, it has to be graded.
Yeah, we would give once the food trucks have been decided on, by whoever on the committee or the working group, we would actually pass that on to the health department. We would say, hey, we're having this event, and these are the food trucks that are going to be there, and then they do the legwork to reach out to them for whatever they need, license, and et cetera.
So everyone has homework. At least one food truck to bring back, so that she can take it and do for the health department. So they'll take some off of you. Just if you can just bring back one.
Yes, and I think when I will have a few options that I throw out there as examples in that letter to the neighborhood associations. There's a wide range of things that you can do.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, the message that you're sending to the neighborhood leaders right now is letting them know that we're doing this, like save the date, get them started about what they would want to showcase at their tent. But also, did I hear you're trying to get any volunteers that they might have who want to be more involved in the planning process?
Yes, exactly, especially with one of those, 4 or
More
5
focus
main
areas.
teams. 4 or 5 main teams, and
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay, any more questions? Comments? We'll move right along while Elizabeth's still talking. She can do the multimodal transportation
Okay.
before you forget.
Yes, so last month at the Multimodal Transportation Committee, there were about 3 main things, and you may add something to this, because I also had to leave before the very end. There were several right-of-way closures that we went through and voted on that were just things that were already in practice and in place. That's always an agenda item at the MMTC, that we're just going through the motions of closing something that has already been petitioned and sort of already been in the works, or already, like a road closure that was not actually open to traffic anyway. The other thing was speed limit changes all around the city. We're lowering speed limits. There were 5 particular ones on Sand Hill, East Street, Sand Hill in the western part of county, East Street in Oakley, Hampton Road in Beverly Hills, Klingman, and Sardis Road. And there was a lot of discussion about what is the appropriate speed limit on Sand Hill and Klingman, in places where there's been increased use of, say, the Hominy Creek Greenway and Sand Hill, people backing in and out of that, not a lot of parking. So though we're lowering it now, there was a lot of conversation about it could be lowered more. If you want to know the specific ones, they have that on their minutes as well, like which ones, like for instance in Hampton Road in Beverly Hills is completely residential, very hilly. I think they lowered it to 30, and I used to live on that road. You cannot go 30 on that road. So we're just systematically addressing particular needs as they come up as priorities.
They did that in my neighborhood on Bowcatcher, and they took from 35 to 25, but we didn't ever have any speed signs up there anyway. And when they changed it, they didn't put any speed signs up to let everybody know what's going on. So when they say them, now granted, that's Bowcatcher, it's not a major thoroughfare. So I can see why they didn't do it, because there's never been any up there. But are they going to put new signs up telling the people that the speed limits have decreased?
Well, in some of these places, there weren't speed limit signs at all, so they are going to post them. If they have decreased, they were supposed to put new signs up. Like on East Street, which has become a GPS thoroughfare from Fairview Road down to Thompson, down to the river, because it goes all the way through. there's no speed limit posted, and now they're going to put a 20-mile-per-hour sign
Yeah,
on
that's
East
good.
Street.
They didn't do my neighborhood, but they don't really need to, but I did follow it, that they did lower the speed limit. And I thought, well, that's good, but it's hilly and you can't do even 25, that's even too fast, but at least it doesn't say 35.
Oh, and I think the last one was Wells Avenue. I missed that one.
Yeah.
Another one in West Asheville, so. A good portion of the MMTC meeting was a presentation by a group that is, I think the project is called the Aspire Project, and it's taking, I guess it's still in proposal phase, and you might be able to finish that because I wasn't there. I don't know what the end result of that, but we spent a lot of time discussing and looking at all kinds of fancy graphics about where the YMCA and Biltmore Baptist and that entire piece of area downtown that they wanted to make a partially residential, partially walkable, some pedestrian ways. To me, it was very confusing. There was a lot of unknowns about what was going to happen and how it would change the landscape. I think the intention was to get the MMTC on board because it would have increased some walkability between some of the neighborhoods across that section of downtown. Apparently, they are in collaboration with the YMCA, which is also going to get a renovation out of this, from my understanding, and Biltmore Baptist.
No, it's not Biltmore Baptist, is it?
No.
It's not the name.
Not Biltmore Baptist, I'm sorry, First Baptist.
First Baptist.
Yeah.
First Baptist, not Biltmore
There you
Baptist.
The one right across wherever the
Yeah,
street is from here.
that
pointing
whole,
out.
and they had several, in their presentation, one of the things that struck me is they kept showing the different angles and saying, we don't want this to just be tall buildings where people can't see around them because it would be blocking views, so they've cut away portions of buildings so that you could see through here. They have a couple of pedestrian areas, but some are gonna be private and some are gonna be public, and Elise, if you have anything to add to this, I don't know if you have any more takeaways from that presentation. I had mixed feelings about it.
I had mixed feelings about it too, which is why I don't really want to say much about it.
Okay. I don't know if there was an outcome at the end.
There's a planning and zoning meeting on it, and I put it in to go to speak on it because I'm definitely not agreeing with how it looks and how they presented it. I'm trying to find it on my darn, it's in June. And if we put up the planning and zoning, and it's a special meeting, so they're doing a special planning and zoning meeting just to talk about this. So what's going on is we have conditional zoning. And conditional zoning in the development process means that the developer gives a general overview about what they want to do, and they do not have to be specific as if they do a level 2 or a level 3 review, where it doesn't go to council. So therefore, they have to meet all the planning and development criteria, so it doesn't have to get reviewed. When it's a conditional zoning, that means they're not having to, a lot of times they're asking for conditions. I can't make the sidewalk 10 feet, I want to make it 5 feet, and all these conditions. And then it will go be reviewed after it goes through the technical review, planning and zoning, and any other development process it has to go through. It ends up at council. Council reviews it, we have public input on it at that point in time. We also have public input at planning and zoning. What they've done with Aspire is they're taking the whole development as a conditional zoning, a CZ, and then they're going to phase it in 3 phases of level 2s. So they're going to go with all these things that they can and cannot do, and then that'll go to council, and then it will come back in phases, which is level 2s. That means that it'll never go to council again in these 3 different phases. So this is the first time the city has done this. And so I do believe they're going to have this, in my opinion, this planning and zoning meeting to meet a lot of the questions that they're trying to make work in this situation that's very intense. And they had the traffic impact study done, which shows a whole lot of traffic. They're making a couple of the roads private. And and me being on the Urban Forestry Commission, my issue with it is, and they brought it to Easton Valley, is they did this beautiful rendering, and they came to us, and they brought us all these wonderful ideas and pictures and drawings that they did, but it does not show what actually is going to be done. It was a nice rendering. It was beautiful, but it wasn't specific to what it really was going to look like. They are going to do affordable housing, and that doesn't mean 80% AMI. They're going to do 40 and 60, which is doable, but they're also going to do a 16-story hotel.
It will change the face of downtown Asheville, and I'm not sure exactly how we, as the Neighborhood Advisory Council, would like to be, could be involved, or how to be involved in terms of, you know.
I sent an email to my point of contact at Easton Valley to let them know that there's a planning and zoning meeting regarding this, because they came to us and we had a whole load of questions, and their response to that is, we haven't worked it out yet. And so will some people in my neighborhood go to ask more pertinent questions? I don't know, but I'm going.
Sharon, is that planning and that special meeting of planning and zoning open?
All planning and zoning meetings are.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay,
And
so
it's
that is
the only
something
time you get comment. So when you go in, sign up to talk whether you want to talk or not, because you'll get more information when they bring it to planning and zoning. And when you get more information, then you can ask smarter questions. And it's worth going. My issue with it is that what they showed us, and they're still not, I reviewed it through the technical review committee through my volunteer work at Urban Forestry Commission. They're still not telling me what trees they're going to save. They're not telling me what trees they're going to put in. They're not sure yet how it's going to go, and they've got a lot of questions. And they can be general in a conditional zoning. That is okay with our development process, but you cannot be general in a level 2. You have to know how many trees are being removed, what's going in, what's going out. Are you going to follow the UDO in this process? So what we're trying to do is get them down. What are you really going to do? What is this really going to look like? How is this really going to impact the neighborhood? How wide are the sidewalks going to be? How are you going to transition? And they've honed it down considerably to where it is, but I do believe the special planning and zoning is just to get further information, and everybody should let their neighborhoods know what's going on, and if you've never done it before, just to watch the process.
Sharon, do you have the date of that meeting here?
I was looking on my calendar.
Okay.
The 21st? Let's see.
Sounds like something a lot of
It's
our neighborhood
5
neighbors would like to
p.m.
know.
June 21st, and it's, and the name of the development is called Aspire, A-S-P-I-R-E. And there's a tool that's called Simplicity that you can look up developments, but the problem with Simplicity is you will not get the technical information that I get when I review it. They'll just show general information on it.
This question may be for, and I'm not sure who at the city level, I just don't know sometimes how to find that. Is this, would that be on the planning and zoning page of that committee on the city website? Like information about this project, if people wanted to look at the rendering and look at the.
Yes.
If they have covered it in a previous meeting, then any information that they covered would be in the meeting materials.
So it would be in the MMTC one too?
Yeah, it is attached to our agenda from the April meeting, whenever that was. Yeah, we have a 55-page document showing all kinds of layers.
I printed it, and mostly it's what they presented. When they finally gave me the plan for the trees and the zoning requirement for the trees, I had to hunt through it, through all of the material they submitted, which is unusual, because normally I'll just get a plan. But I had to wade through 35 pages to look for it. Little tiny print that I had to plus up to read, and it was still very general. I do believe that they're not familiar with our process because they're from another area of North Carolina, and planning is working really well and really hard with them, and they've had a lot of meetings with them.
Well, and I know one thing from the rendering that I didn't see when you were talking about trees, and is that, you know, when you are at that traffic circle and you take a right onto Oak, like you're headed towards the Y around that corner, all of those giant oak trees, I would say.
They're oak trees.
On Oak Street. There was no, those have been relocated. There's a few trees in the drawing, but those are not them.
Well, that was my complaint, is don't put trees on the rendering that are not going to be there. And that was a comment I made at technical review committee. Do not place trees or greenery where trees and greenery are not going to be. And so that's where.
Well, and in this case, a lot of giant trees that are there, where are they going?
They're not, they're going to be removed.
That's what I mean.
Because part of the development process is you can remove. We have gotten a tree protection canopy, tree canopy protection where you get credits for older trees, and we incentivize older trees. But if you've got to put a driveway there, then the trees come out. And so and then they have to put back a percentage of trees. But at CBD, Central Business District, they're required the minimum. And that's why the large hotel can go up, because they're in the large hotel area if everybody's followed the moratorium that we had, and everything was small designated hotel and large area, and they're right on the edge of the large area for hotels. So, and they're in Central Business District, so they have a minimum amount of trees are required, street trees every 40 feet. And they said they're going to save some of the trees on the inside, but I don't know how that development looks. So there's just a lot of questions, and I think at planning and zoning, a lot of this is going to be fleshed out.
Well, before we sort of officially transfer to the urban forestry, does anyone else have any questions about multimodal transportation? Okay.
Okay. Sharon, urban.
Real quick, so for everybody that doesn't know, we have public trees and we have private trees. Public trees are city-owned trees. They can be sitting in a park, they can be on a city-owned area, and that's maintained by Public Works, and we have a separate chapter for that. It's called Chapter 20. And then private trees are the trees that we talked about that are at Aspire, that are in your house. Single-family residences are not geared by the UDO, but properties over a certain size then have to fall into the criteria of the city, and that ordinance is 7113. And so we have spent a lot of time in the Urban Forestry Commission doing the tree canopy protection amendment to protect existing trees, because in our old way of doing things, you could chop everything down and then stick a twig in the ground and call it a new tree, and everybody'd see it that is just being born now. So we said we've got to incentivize. So we worked on with the development community, and we've come up with a compromise on saving our existing trees. And now what we're doing is we're working with the Public Works Department and our urban, Mark Foster, our, I can't believe my brain today, I've been working too hard, is our arborist. And they are in charge of all the public trees. So we've had a couple of instances where people will call in and say the walnut tree is dropping walnuts on my driveway, and I hate that tree, and come take it down. Or I've had it taken down, but it happens to be on a city-owned piece, and they can't take it down. So, but they can apply for a permit to take a tree down if there is something actually that's wrong with this tree. It's a hazard tree. And so we're working with Public Works right now on our public trees, taking old language. It hasn't probably been redone in, I'm going to guess, 20 years. We're updating it. We're trying to give the incentivization of save a tree if you can, but if it's hazardous, let's get rid of it now. You know, we don't want to kill people, but we don't want random removal. And work with Public Works, that brings us to the golf course trees, and Parks Department handles the parks trees, which is another situation, so everything gets all siloed in some ways. But we're working on our Chapter 20, which is our public trees at this point, urban forestry. That's all I have for a change.
Okay, so if you look on the back, agenda items for next are upcoming meetings, waste reduction program, hopefully she'll come. We'll get them next month, hopefully. Candace Pickens about the park updates, kind of, what's that? Kind of like,
That was something that Wendy had requested. I think that she was going to reach out to the organizers of that to see if they could attend that meeting, even though it's after, yeah, it's
oh,
after
that was
she rolls
about
off.
the park down in North Asheville.
Yes.
They changed the name.
Oh, yeah,
Grace
right.
neighborhood.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what that is. So it's gonna reach out to try to find out, because they built that up themselves, didn't they?
It's a week in October, isn't it, where they're gonna be?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's right, they're looking for volunteers to
Volunteers.
help rebuild the park.
Yes.
So I guess I'll say, since Wendy, I'm not sure if she'll be here next month, and that would only, no, yeah, I'm not sure if she will. So is there interest, do you guys want me to reach out? Or do you want to leave that as a tentative thing, or should I, or not?
Pretty booked, I think, but
I don't think right now.
Okay.
With the Festival of Neighborhoods coming up
Mm-hmm.
and the work that's got to be done with that.
Okay.
I think that we can put that on hold for now.
Okay.
Well, this will be Peter's last meeting. Might have to tie you up so you can't go.
You know, if I knew you'd miss me this much, I would've stayed. You know, but, yeah, you didn't tell me. You didn't tell me your feelings.
I know, and I wasn't here last month. Were you here last month?
No.
Okay, well, I thought not, yeah. And so what we'll have to think about too is that Sharon's last meeting will be next month. So we'll have to think about a vice chair until we get ready to have the retreat or elections or however that's gonna run. So that's just something to think about for the next meeting.
For like 2 months until we do our annual meeting in August.
Mm-hmm.
August.
We elect
Sharon, your
officers
meeting.
in August.
Can I just say that it's been a pleasure serving with you?
All right.
And I probably owe this committee more than they owe me because I learned so much about how the city runs. And that, Sharon, you could teach a course in this, And so it's really a great experience. And yeah, so I've got involved in a lot of other things, so it's a good time to go. But I'll miss you too.
All right. So I think that everyone has done really great work. The work groups you've done really great. We'll have to get you involved in some things. So y'all need to start asking them.
He put together all the neighborhoods that are in 28805 and gave me a list of it. I said, I don't know who's all in 28805, and Peter sat down and went through all the boundaries and labeled all the neighborhoods that are, and there's quite a few of them. I think there's like 13 or something like that.
So
Yeah, in 28805. So thank you for doing that. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And then he did the bordering roads that also have non-formal neighborhoods. So, and that was good to know. So we'll pass that on to whoever gets 28805 because it's tying into people getting involved in neighborhoods. Hey, how many people know that we have a Dogwood Grove as a neighborhood association?
do you know Chestnut Hills too?
Yeah, I do know that one.
A lot of people didn't know Chestnut Hills. I was surprised that a lot of people, I think Stumptown is getting ready they're reorganizing.
I've heard that they were.
And we're meeting, because I was raised in Stumptown, so I've seen that It's getting better. It's getting out there. All these, I think, the collaborations and the corporation, the organization with all the other, I know Buncombe County and the city is doing a lot of work to try to get these together, so I think that's good. So I'm sorry, we won't have a party for you because I don't have time.
I'm coming, I'm on a party, you know, we gotta find music for our festival.
Bobette, I have one question before
Yes.
we adjourn. With the new quarterly appointments for committees, are we looking at June or July before we get new members? Or, because I know there's some openings listed right now.
I believe it's for June.
It is for June, okay.
I think so, yeah.
Is that something we'll be talking about? Because I'm also eager to get those folks involved too, with neighborhood, the
Right,
festival of
yeah.
neighborhoods.
Yeah,
Well, we'll just have to wait until, is it closed?
I think the appointment would be made at a council meeting in June,
June.
which means that their first meeting with NAC would be July.
I see, okay.
At the end of July, because we meet at the end of July.
I think, I mean,
Yeah,
maybe,
I think
okay.
that is correct.
okay.
End of July.
If there's nothing else, Peter, here.
Oh.
Oh.
No, I'm not gonna do this.
Say it.
So if there's nothing else, I hereby adjourn the Neighborhood Advisory Committee